These are real sales from last week. Some sold instantly, some sat for months, and each one has a lesson that I use when I'm sourcing. This is a Canali suit. It sold for $174 in 5 days. These first items are all things that sold within a week. Canali suit, this is a men's, it says 54, US 44. Something to understand about Italian tailoring and designer brands from Italy. Oftentimes, Canali, Brioni, some other brands, this Italian size 54, you can subtract 10 and get the US size out of it. This is a 44. It is 100% wool. It was sold in a department store called Hubert White in Minnesota, and apparently there's a little bit of a collector value just for that. This is what the tag looks like, and this 54 is the Italian size. You'll subtract 10 and get 44. 7 means it's a drop 7, meaning the waist is 7 inches smaller than the chest. So theoretically, that would put this at a 37-inch waist. So let's check that. And the waist on these pants measured about 36, it looks like. This pattern is really on trend right now. That really helped it sell. 5 days for a suit is exceptionally fast. A lot of these actually sell in the $300 to $400 range. I priced mine at $200 and accepted an offer of $175 because I wanted the fast sale. Anything above that, in my experience, leads to sitting on it for 6 months to a year, and it will eventually sell for $300 to $400. However, I typically end up accepting the first offer of $175 or $200 early on anyway. So I priced mine competitively so that it would make for a quick sale, and it sold in 5 days for $175. And actually, in next week's video, you'll see another Canali blazer that sold in 6 days. It sold for more money, and it was just the blazer. We'll discuss that one next week. Okay, up next, this is a Polo Ralph Lauren down vest. Obviously, we all know Polo Ralph Lauren can be really good in some stuff and then just sit forever in some other stuff. I don't really pick up the peak polos anymore. However, anything more substantial will bring you pretty good money. This sold in 2 days. I took an offer of $80. It has the pony hit. It's a modern label, and it is 90% white duck down for the filling. And anything downfilled is going to increase the value some anyway. But Polo Ralph Lauren, downfilled, puffer vest, these things are really on trend right now. So I expected it to sell quick. I didn't quite expect it to sell as quick as it did. Maybe I underpriced it. Either way, $80 in 2 days. I'll take that any day of the week. Up next is this vintage Polo Ralph Lauren sweater. This also sold in about a day. I took a best offer of $35 on it. Again, Polo Ralph Lauren can be an excellent brand. How do I know this one is ripped? Made in Hong Kong. Ralph Lauren stopped manufacturing in Hong Kong in the late 90s. So it's a good, most of their manufacturing in the late 90s. So that is a pretty good teller that this is a vintage piece. Important keywords to know for a piece like this, I included nautical and striped. But yeah, this sold in a day for $35. Again, you can ask more money for these things. I'm all about the quick nickel over the slow dime, but you do you. Up next is this Eileen Fisher vest. This is a good size and a size 1X, and it is a polyester filled puffer vest. Eileen Fisher is a pretty decent brand. We pick up a lot of their stuff. Their outerwear can go for even better money, so be on the lookout for stuff like this. Brown was a pretty decent color for the time of year. And yeah, so this sold in 5 days for $72. We had it listed for $80, and somebody accepted a Nifty auto offer of 10% off for $72. So if you see Eileen Fisher outerwear, pick it up if it's the right price. Up next, these sold really fast. These sold in 3 days, and they're just a basic mall brand. This shows that trending aesthetics are sometimes more powerful than the brand itself. American Eagle is very saturated. However, if you are following the right trends, you can get stuff sold. So these sold for $35 in just a few days. The color is cream, which is pretty on trend. But the fact that these are baggy and wide leg, and they're not even all that super wide leg, but they are called the super high rise baggy wide leg. This style happens to sell quite well. And yeah, so just because it's American Eagle, don't pass it up. Make sure you're looking up everything, and you'll find there's items in pretty much every brand that you can get sold for decent money. Up next, these sold in 6 days. These are the Maeve Anthropologie, the Colette. We've sold the Colette many times. This is the first time we've sold the corduroy version. They are a wide leg pant, and these happened to be corduroy in a pretty on-trend style. The Colette is one of my favorite things from Maeve to sell, unless you find a really good dress or something like that. Yeah, just like the last pants, wide leg baggy is on trend and selling quite well right now. So be on the lookout. All right, this next item that sold is a pair of Adriana Goldsmith brown trousers. Depop is weird. So my title that I would have used for the other platforms is right here. These are the Angel corduroy pants. They're kind of a flare style, boot cut style. Corduroy, boot cut, flare, that's all in style. I use the keyword dark academia, Y2K. Obviously, we threw flare and boot cut in here. These were a pretty good size in a 32. And yeah, so AG can still be good if you're picking up trending styles. These were the Angel, and just looking at, they were a good size, just looking at some of the pictures we use. Depop doesn't allow near as many pictures, so you got to be picky when you're choosing which pictures to put up. But yeah, Adriana Goldschmied, if they're well enough priced, get them. Up next, so this jacket took a lot longer to sell than expected. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, I had it priced way too high. I priced it at $200. Number two, I like putting my first picture kind of off-centered, kind of like that, or at an angle. However, that was a little too extreme. So it should have been more along these lines and a little tighter. But I wanted to be able to include this logo and some of the structure, so it just didn't really work that well. However, triple fat goose can be, I had never heard of it. I looked it up. They were going for good money. So I picked it up, and this one, and it ended up selling on a best offer for $75. It, however, sat for about a year. Pretty sure it was about this time last year when I listed it. I guess I just listed it in August. I don't know what I'm thinking about then. But still, it took over 4 months to sell. And I don't know a whole lot about the brand. I know that this is a down-filled jacket, and it's structured quite well. There's their logo, 80% down-filled, 20% waterfowl feathers, and took some good pictures. Again, this is a vintage triple fat goose jacket. It sold for $75. It did sit for about 4 months before it sold. However, I would buy it again. I think a lot of the reason it's sad is the fact that this picture was a little too angled. I like doing the angled pictures, but this one was probably a little too much. Other than that, it's a pretty good pickup. I paid $15 for it. It sold for $75 in 4 months. And it is a down-filled jacket. And when I looked it up, it had pretty good comps. So you see triple fat goose, I would definitely look it up. Up next is this vintage midi prom dress. Juniors, my wife listed this one, taffeta, whimsigoth, Y2K, cocktail, 90s, Hoko, homecoming. So she keyworded this up specifically for a specific audience. It did take 4 months to sell, just like that last one, but we got it sold for $46.45, and that's a pretty good profit margin. The brand was Patra, and I'm guessing the brand alone didn't comp well. So, but she thought it was a pretty dress. So when she thinks something is on trend, she will get it listed anyway and keyword it up. Patra doesn't comp well. Vintage midi prom dress, juniors, floral, taffeta, whimsigoth, Y2K, cocktail, 90s Hoko. Sells for $47 in a few months. So I guess know what you think will sell. All right, up next. This is a vintage Kansas City Chiefs sweatshirt. I've seen comps selling for well over 150. In fact, I've seen some selling for over $200 for this exact sweatshirt. When I looked it up at the beginning of the season, and I priced mine for $150. And then the Chiefs went ahead and had a pretty terrible year this year. Neither here nor there for me, but if you're a Chiefs fan, sorry. However, because their season isn't going so well, I'm sure that kind of lended into why this took so long to sell. When a team is having a great year, their stuff sells a whole lot better than when they're not. And I do believe this sweater would have sold 3 months ago had they been winning. But that's okay. I still made a really good sale. I took a $75 offer on this, and I still have another one listed similar. If I would have found them a year ago, they probably would have already sold for double what I got out of them. So that's the important thing about sports team stuff. You want to make sure they're listed before the season starts, when everybody's still hyped about their teams. And if a team is just tearing it up, make sure you're getting it listed as soon as possible, because if they fall off that cliff, people are less likely to be spending really good money on them. Up next, this is a Talbot's midi shirt dress. This one actually sold really fast. It got put in the wrong spot here. This sold in 8 days. It was listed the last day of December. This is a Talbot's midi shirt dress, size 18. It sold in 8 days. It got placed in the wrong category here. Talbot's does pretty well in bigger sizes. 18W is plus size. It's a good pattern. It has the belt, and those are the things that kind of help this stand out. The belt helps it be more flattering, and yeah, so what helps this dress sell also are the keywords. The tie front with the belt, you can't really see it in the main photo there, but it is there. And then keywords: cottagecore, modest, and business. Up next, I included these just kind of for the fun of them. I got these for $25 at a garage sale, just knowing there's no way that I was confident it would sell. That said, I probably wouldn't buy them in this condition again, even though I was confident before. So they have staining right in the right on the front here that could be anything. They are clean. I washed them and stain treated them and all that good stuff just because why not? And they ended up taking about 5 months to sell, and I made about a $5 profit only because I got them for $25. They sold for $15 free ship. And yeah, honestly, if they were, I would buy them again if they weren't stained. They'd probably sell for about $30 free ship, and you could probably pay $5 for that and still make pretty decent money. So up next, it's the middle of winter, and I'm selling bathing suits. My wife picked it up and said people are going on cruises, and she ain't wrong. This did take a little while to sell. We listed it in August, so it took about 4 months to sell. However, it shows you that Land's End really is a good brand to be on the lookout for in swimwear. They don't sell for huge money, but any swimsuit that's gonna sell in January for $30 is worth being on the lookout for. Had we listed this in April, my guess is we probably could have listed it for $40, $45 and got it sold. But regardless, Land's End is a strong brand in swimwear. I don't know why. It's one of the things, it's a brand that I pass by 99% of their stuff, and something as unsubstantial as a swimsuit happens to be one of the better things you can pick up from this brand. So if you're going through swimsuits and you find Land's End, I would definitely comp it. Up next, this is a vintage Cabela's chamois shirt. In men's, these sell very quickly. In women's, it does seem to take a little bit longer to get them sold. This one took us about 3.5 months to get sold. It has a really cool pattern with the horses, some Aztec stuff going on, mountains in the background. Honestly, I'm shocked it took so long to sell. Like I said, in men's, it probably would have sold in a week or two, but in women's, it does take a bit longer. And this was made in Peru. It's 100% cotton. Cabela's for women. Pattern is really cool. Include the pictures. So yeah, important keywords for anything of this style: Western, cowgirl, Aztec. Anytime I can get equestrian in the title, I'm going to add it. It will add value as well as make it sell quicker. Potentially the reason this took a little longer to sell is because we misspelled equestrian, but that happens. So moving on. Up next is another Ralph Lauren piece. Ralph Lauren is my favorite brand to resell. It's one of my favorite brands to wear. This is a cable knit sweater in a light blue, Carolina blue, baby blue color. Has the yellow pony hit. It is vintage Ralph Lauren, just like we discussed earlier. Made in Hong Kong. It's a good sign to be looking out for. Cable knit, fisherman knit, just sweaters that have the ribbing, the knitted ribbing like this are just on trend, and they sell super fast from multiple different brands. The higher end brand, the more money you're going to get, but I regularly sell these things from Talbot's and other lesser known brands, American Eagle and stuff like that, as long as you can get them cheap. Up next, Ralph Lauren again. Like I said, Ralph Lauren is one of my favorite brands to resell. It is my top selling brand of 2025. I pick up their button shirts regardless of material, as long as they're in really good condition. They have a pony hit and they have a letter size. Typically, I list them for $30 and take offers down to 25 or so. They will sit for up to sometimes 6-9 months. I have some listed that have been in for almost a year now, but I typically get them sold relatively quick. This one sold for more money for one reason, and that is it is a linen and silk blend. Being able to put either of those words in your title will exponentially increase how much you are seeing on Ralph Lauren shirts. Ralph Lauren shirts are very, very crowded. So any keyword you can add that reduces your competition helps. And when you have a blend like a silk linen blend, to where I can throw both silk and linen in the title, I will show up alongside 100% linen shirts. I will show up alongside 100% silk shirts, and I will show up alongside shirts with the same composition as this. But I'm not going to be showing up next to, if somebody searches linen shirt, I'm not going to be showing up next to 100,000 cotton shirts. So 100% in a Ralph Lauren shirt, if you can find it with upgraded materials that you can throw in the title, will exponentially increase your sell-through rate. That doesn't mean to ignore your other keywords. Classic, heritage, old money, and luxury are excellent keywords for this, especially with those upgraded fabrics. So again, this didn't take long to sell, and yeah, Ralph Lauren is an excellent brand. Even their cotton shirts sell. I would just be careful with how much you pay for them and make sure that you can get them listed fast, because they're not going to sell for a ton. Up next, Can has pretty much completely fallen off the face of the earth over the last 5 years. However, you can still find certain styles that will sell for decent money. I paid $5 for these. They sold for $30, and they took less than a month to sell. So these are flare jeans, mid-rise flat pocket, dark wash, boho, rodeo. I like to throw that keyword in if it's something a girl could wear to the rodeo, which is pretty much every pair of jeans you can think of. Taking good pictures. Style number here will pull up an exact style number with Can. It could help you look it up. I passed 99% of Can jeans. Flat pocket, but flare is going to sell better than straight or skinny or whatever. So yeah, just because you see a brand doesn't mean you stop looking. When I'm sourcing through jeans, if I see a brand that has a tiny amount of potential, so I'm not going to do it on Shein or Rustler. I don't even know if they make women's, but if I see Can or Dragon Bone or Miss Me, something like that, I look down the leg and see if it's something that is a trending style and make my decision then. Up next, this is a Pendleton leather jacket, purple. This did take a little while to sell. I'm guessing it's just a loud enough color that it takes the right buyer to find it. Pendleton is an excellent brand to be on the lookout for. However, you have to be careful on some of their less substantial pieces. It is sold in Costco, so like the cotton button-up shirts really aren't worth picking up at all. That said, leather is always a value multiplier, so keep an eye out for anything leather. If you can get it for the right price, especially within a good brand like Pendleton, and it's a pretty good style. It's like a moto style. So, yeah. Up next is a pair of Miss Me's. These are straight leg Miss Me's, and these sat for I think these took 9 months to sell. For a lot of reasons. I do on Miss Me's almost always, my first picture is of the back pockets. That's what people care about. However, I'm more picky with Miss Me's now. I don't think I would pick these up again. They have to have really cool embellishments on the back. These are a straight leg, which is less desirable. And yeah, they are a decent size, but I probably wouldn't pick these up again. I did pay full price for these at my thrift store, so I paid $11 and they sold for $29 free ship. That leaves me probably, I don't know, $6 or $7 profit, so not something I'm going to pick up again. Miss Me's have stuff that will sell for hundreds. You just got to know what you're looking for and comp everything. If these had American flags on the back pocket with some flare legs, you'd be looking at probably double what I got out of these. Up next, these are Nike Air Jordan Wings of Flight pants, size small. These were sold or listed in July, so they took about 5 months to sell. Jordan's actually kind of saturated, believe it or not. These there weren't a whole lot of, and I was seeing them selling for $80. I was seeing them selling for $60 to $120 when I comped them, and so I picked them up, got them listed, and they sold in 5 months for, I took an offer of $70. If you don't know, pretty much anything Nike has the style code right here. So if you type in Nike BB1136 into Google, you will basically get this exact string. And I try to always start my titles with brand and then model name, because it gives you a better chance of Google or eBay picking you up. So yeah, little tidbit there. Next, these are some Levi's 560s. 560s are the better-ish. One of the only ones I still pick up in with the modern tags. 560s are one of the only Levi's I still pick up with modern tags, those along with the 501s, occasionally 527s. But they are the baggy fit, and for some reason they're still selling well. The size on these, I'm actually kind of surprised they sold as fast as they did, because the inseam is 12 inches bigger than, or the waist is 12 inches bigger than the inseam. I try to keep this number within 6 inches. However, 560s are decent, so I went ahead and got them. This is the modern tagging style that Levi is using now. I'm sure you've seen that a million times. Good measurements. But yeah, Levi's can do well. Like I said, I've quit picking up most modern Levi's primarily because of the price tag at my thrift store. $10.80 makes it hard to make money. This is kind of the bottom dollar I have to get in order to make my $10 profit after fees and shipping and cost of goods and all of that. Up next, this is an Ali Miles tunic top. This is one of my wife's biggest bread and butter brands. It's kind of like her Ralph Lauren shirts. She can get these listed super fast because she's done it a million times. They always sell. This one in particular took about 3.5, 4 months to sell. Ali Miles is an artsy brand, and yeah, they sell relatively well, especially in the plus sizes. Yeah, The thing to remember is keyword everything up. This one has paisley in it. Login look, artsy, mature. I don't know where buttons up over here. That's interesting. That's kind of cool. Anyway, it took a few months to sell. And yeah. Up next, pair of vintage 505s. I pick up 505s under a few situations. Number one, they almost 100% have to be vintage. I will pick up modern 505s for less than $5. And then the vintage 505s I will pick up for my full regular thrift store price right now, which is $10.80. However, they have to meet a few guidelines. They either have to be like brand new condition or have a really cool looking fade, black wash, or some other kind of, the wash has to be cool. These are black wash, and I think they had a pretty good fade, a little distressing, and that helps them sell. So these sold in about a month. I took an offer, a Nifty, sorry, I keep trying to say auto posture, Nifty automatic offer of 10% off, and they sold in about a month. Next, this is Diane von Furstenberg. Is sold in a week or two. Diane von Furstenberg can do really well. This one was a silk blend, and yeah, this was a velvet burnout. So if you look, wow, this was a velvet burnout. So it's a velvet texture with pattern burned out of it, and it is really cool looking. It sold for $35 in just a week or two. And then the last one we're going to talk about today, this is a vintage Wrangler Western shirt, pearl snap. This took a couple months to sell. Again, it has the equestrian horses on it. Equestrian is a stronger keyword in women's than it is in men's. However, it is important in men's as well. I did not include it in my title here. However, it's in the theme down below. So it does still get picked up in that search. But I felt like these keywords were better because I was hoping running horses was a specific pattern people were looking for. This one didn't sell as fast as some. It's not a brush popper, and it's vintage, but not as vintage as some. This is the Wrangler Western shirts. It's mid 90s, late 90s probably. And yeah, I had a stain there. Obviously, that's going to hurt the value. Had a little snag, I guess. But yeah. Aztec brush poppers can go for $150, $200. And the brush poppers are a lot thicker. Sure. They're made for being walking around in the bush, and yeah. If you're ever sourcing and want a tool to help you make decisions faster, check the link below. Thanks for watching.